Hey, very welcome to my other episode. And this time around, again, I have another amazing guest, and we're gonna talk a lot about what it means and to do a thriving business while feeling free and feeling that you're playing and feeling that you are not in that grip of forcing and pushing yourself. And it's a very good topic to explore with my guest, Pauly, today, because she is all about alignment. And when I first saw her, I absolutely loved her message because she helps people to actually use their gifts, their natural gifts, and not to be afraid to do so. She also talks about how to attract aligned clients, right? So we very often we speak about a good fit and things like that, but we don't normally hear the combination aligned clients, and that is super interesting to look into. And I'm so very excited for what's coming on this episode and for what we're gonna share together with Pauly. And very welcome, Pauly. I'm so super excited about having you with me for this episode. Is there anything you could add to your intro? Anything that you can say about yourself?
Yeah, thank you, Adita. I'm happy to be here. So you did a great job. Thank you for the introduction. So basically the aligned clients that I help attract is through content. But it's not just like, let's write a bunch of content or let's repurpose a bunch of content with AI. It's like Adita was saying, really getting to know who your aligned client is and connecting through the content. So not just conversions, but really connecting with them and on a deeper level, building a really true amount of trust to convert them in an ethical way.
Yeah, and that resonates so much with me because even though, and you and I exchange, about the strategies, the methods, copywriting, that kind of stuff, being an expert in all those things, but for the longest time, I felt inauthentic. I felt like I had to post something every day, but I wasn't feeling very connected to how I was showing up. And I knew doing that, I knew that I wasn't really me. And I knew that I wasn't showing up as powerfully as I could. Otherwise, I was totally longing that uh, sense of connectedness and acting from inside of me. But I just didn't know how to find that place. So from what you are saying, from what I'm seeing about you, and I absolutely like your style, and I like your straightforwardness and how you express yourself. Tell me a little bit about, was it always like that for you, or did you sort of kind of, had a similar story to mine, and at some point something changed and clicked for you?
Yeah, so it was definitely not always like this. I started out online in 2019. Prior to that, I was in corporate as a project manager in large manufacturing companies, which is predominantly male. And I was in IT, so it's
Mhm.
super predominantly male. So from a really early age, I started working when I was 23 or 22, actually. I felt like I had to be a little bit masculine energy, really go, like to the point. Not very like fluffy girly, or it came off as, not serious. Um, and then when I transitioned into marketing for myself, first I was basically went into business in a box. I was using templates, like you were saying, they didn't feel like me. I learned the principles of copywriting, but it really felt like mechanics. And when I transitioned into coaching 2 years ago, I realized, okay, this works okay for ads, but it doesn't work when you're trying to really express yourself and connect. with aligned clients. I could get clients, but a lot of them weren't perfect fits. Sometimes they weren't the best fit for the offer. And I really wanted to figure out, how do I create a message that connects with women that are not just perfect for the offer, but that really vibe with me? Because the better you vibe with your coach and you actually like listening to them, the better you absorb the message.
Yeah, and I'm listening to you and thinking, we are taught to research your audience, research your target market, go for rich people, people with money to buy your high ticket offer and things like that. And, I was doing all those things. And then, that one moment that I got a download from the existence, from the universe, I realized that I'm gonna lead with what I want to say now, with and everything else will need to sort of shape around it. So and I think and then you hear that inner voice, and I hear that from people. But what about what if nobody wants my stuff? What if what if there is no market for it? Well, what do you have to say about, because I know now it's not really true the way, that kind of thinking. What do you think? What do you have to say about that?
Yeah. So I think there are so many people on this earth. I think there's a market for just about everything, like the strangest things you could imagine. If you search like offers with cats, there's even things for people that just like cats, about their cats, like very strange things that I personally would have never thought would have a market. I think it's more about really like connecting with those people, right? Figuring out what is it that you want to do? Where is your passion? Like you were saying, really listening to that inner voice. That's really what changed things for me too. Had a long stretch, talk about this sometimes in my content. I had a long stretch of about 6 months where I wasn't signing anyone new. I had recurring clients, but nobody knew at all. And I was like, what is wrong? What is going on? That's back when I was using templates and trying to always write what I thought I should write. Um, and then one day I said, you know what? Are we allowed to swear in your podcast?
Sorry, say
Are we
again.
allowed to swear?
Yeah, just be you.
Okay,
Just be you.
perfect.
Just be you. Yeah.
Okay. I had a fuck it moment and I was like, okay, if I'm not doing well with these templates, I'm just gonna write whatever I want. And I had some years of strategy, so it wasn't completely like off the wall, but I was just writing from that inner place, like what I actually wanted to
And
say.
just to pause for the cause, did you know, like in that moment when you made the decision to write from yourself, did you actually know what that was, that inner you?
So kind of, because I had done some mindset work. So I had learned, and it was completely separate from the business stuff, but I was doing some mindset work. Um, and I learned what your intuition was for the first time ever. I had never heard that word. Um, and it's that little voice, right? It sometimes is annoying and you don't want to listen to it. You're like, no, I don't want to go that way. I'm going this way. I'm going like directly there. Why would I go out of the way? And that's the voice that changed everything for me.
Yeah, and and it's so interesting you're saying that. So when that switch happened for me, so first of all, when you know, and I mean, it somehow becomes the truth and you start trusting it. But then even with that, I sort of struggled. Now I was affected by this um external world, all this other way of thinking, the old way of thinking, coming from the logic, coming from the structure, and from the and I was in IT, as you know as well, in my previous life. um and then I knew, like, well, okay, I don't like this word anymore. I don't like, I could tell I don't like this, all these phrases, all these words, or some of them. But then I was struggling to find the words that were like, I kind of need to transition from that thinking to that thinking, that way of being, and find the word that actually represent who I am correctly. Did you have that moment?
Yeah, I think so. I wrote content for about 4 years before I went into coaching for other coaches. So I did a lot of copywriting work. And I felt like I always had all these words in my head that weren't really words that, like, if you're talking to person, that I would ever use. And it was almost like having a million coats on, like other people's coats. And you had to kind of shed them off layer by layer. And I stopped following or stopped really like scrolling on my newsfeed. So I
Mm.
needed to silence everyone else's voice and figure out what is my own voice.
Yeah, and did it feel heavy? Like, because I remember my own story was that it did feel very heavy. And in 2020, I remember I decided that this year is the year of getting myself back because I had lost myself because of a combination of different reasons. And then COVID happened. So again, everything started going sideways even more, So, but I knew that I wasn't being myself, and it was almost like agony, knowing that, but yet not finding the center of me, not being able to show up that I knew I should be showing up, So that was really heavy. Did you have those moments like when you realize, oh, this is not my words, not my phrases, not the way I want to show up?
Yeah. I guess for me, it was almost like a switch. I went from kind of copywriter voice to when I had that fuck it moment and just decided to write whatever I wanted. Then it was my voice, but it was like a back and forth, like tug of war almost. Cause then logic would come back. And I was like, okay, no, we have to write more this way. And then I'd get mad again and be like, no, I'm going to write whatever I want. So, kind of for me, I guess it was more like back and forth
Mm.
than a big, heavy transition.
Yeah, yeah. And, my podcast is called From Grind to Grace. So I absolutely like exploring why entrepreneurs are grinding and, basically exploring that side, that logical side, and it gets in the way, and how beautiful and easy and flowing it can become when you actually dial in to yourself and start voicing your truth, start using your words, that the ones that your F words, I use them, myself, not necessarily all the time, but if it comes up, it comes up. I don't care. So how did you feel, like, how did that express or reflect it, in your life, in your business, and the way you are approaching everyday activities when that switch happened?
I think I just started trusting myself more.
And
Like,
did
I
that feel
know,
like, did that help you to step out of like forcing yourself all the time, grinding, taking action, doing whatever it takes, even if it somehow you knew that it wasn't agreeing with you?
yes, that was a slow transition. So, I was writing content from more of a free place, but I was still like tugging back and forth between, oh, I have to do all of these business activities because my logic brain is like, you have to do them. If you don't
Mhm.
do them, you're not going to hit this amount of clients.
Mhm.
Um, so that was a process letting that go and feeling into, maybe I really don't like to do this. Let's see if I can build a business without doing this part that I hate. Um, and figuring out step by step how to do that, right? What I actually liked and what I would sustain doing, and still obviously build a business that is thriving without the hustle part.
Yeah, I know, like, it can be that transition can be quite hard because we are so affected by the way various gurus teach, and it's not necessarily their fault, it's the whole society that functions that way, so affected by this masculine energy and getting things done no matter what. And this linear thinking and this building brick by brick, which many of us can totally do. And then when we start talking about this other easy way of doing things and the flow and listening to your intuition and this, a lot of people look at you and are like, what the F are you talking about? You need to take action. You need to have this morning routine and get up early and that kind of stuff. What do you have to say to that kind of reasoning?
So I think it's a bit of a combination, right? Like there's in business always things we don't really love doing. Like I will never love QuickBooks. I don't love balancing the QuickBooks and looking at all the behind the scenes things. So that to me is probably never going to feel like fully amazingly in flow. But when it comes to something like content, like expressing yourself, that needs to be in flow because that's energy. And when you're putting out energy from a place of, let me check a box because I have to post, like you were saying earlier, it's not going to land, right? It feels heavy. It doesn't feel like something people want to read and are excited to connect with you about.
Yeah, tell me more about energy because I just love this topic now, about expressing your energy, why it matters, how it's different. I think when we say energy, a lot of people think about that labor energy, that energy that kind of drives your actions and discipline. What's the difference between those two?
Yeah. So that's one type of energy for sure is like our energy to do stuff and to do all the tasks, which we also need. But I think everything is energy, right? Money is energy. It's an energy exchange. Um, Content is energy. The way that you're presenting, like even when you take a picture, if you're irritated, it comes off as energy in your picture. And when you post it, people aren't receiving it the same way as if you're legitimately having fun, enjoying your walk or wherever you're posting your picture, your vacation, the energy is a lot different. That's why people that really focus on their energy become magnetic because it's like a very true representation of happiness and being in flow and people want that. People are naturally gravitated to that.
Yeah, and you can't fake it, you can't manufacture it.
Mm-mm.
And also, I think what a lot of people are mistaken about that, when your audience see your posts or your photos, they are kind of logically thinking, is this authentic or not? But it's not even thinking, it's just like instant
Yeah.
sense, right? And that energy comes through your choice of words, phrases, hell knows what else. I can't even explain it properly, you
Mm-hmm.
know. But you just can feel it, right?
Yeah.
And so how do you help your clients to unpack that? Because it's very beautiful to be in that place when you have gifts and you are allowed to use those gifts. And there's someone somewhere in the world, usually, that needs your gifts. But, like, and back in the day, if somebody asked me what my gifts are, I would probably be overthinking that. And I didn't know how to answer that question,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I was like, I would be trying to think about it logically, coming, like, oh yeah, so people tell me I'm good at this and that, so that would probably that's what I would pick. How do you help people unpack their gifts and understand what they are?
Yeah. So I like to do this right off the bat because it's the most important part of what I do. We basically unpack it, right? We figure out what do you love doing? Like if we could just take money out of the equation, if it was a fantasy world and you could do whatever you wanted to do that you really feel passionate about when you're doing it, what would it be? And we talk about transformations that they've gotten before, even if people didn't pay them, using those gifts to help
Mhm.
people, using them to lift people up. And you just see this huge shift, right? This weight comes off their shoulder and they're not thinking about their existing offer anymore, their I help statement, or all of this bullshit stuff that's on top of us all the time. They're just expressing themselves. And almost always, my clients are either refining their offer or coming up with a completely new one. They are so fired up. So I think it's kind of like what I was saying before. It's shedding those coats, shedding those layers of stuff
Mm.
that either other people or we've put on ourselves that we think we have to do, we have to sell. And the only thing you really should be doing is figuring out what is the true gift that was given to you. And then how do you give that to other people? Because that's why we're all here.
Yeah, and I like saying, sell it to yourself first, and sometimes it's so close. It's so close to what people are already doing, right? It's just that sometimes there's only a tiny, tiny shift that's needed for them to sit and like, wow, like, is this what I'm doing? Like, do you get those reactions? Like,
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of times they're still in the niche. They just needed to shift a little bit. And they're like, I didn't think this would make any money. And I tell them if there's energy behind it, it's going to make money.
mhm. And also even, and let me know what you think about this. Like, we all know about this example about selling a pen, for 100 bucks, right? Which basically suggests, and it's really true, that you can position anything to anything. Like you can link anything to anything if you
Mm-hmm.
want, if you add your gifts, if you add a particular meaning and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
Like you can take a branch, a tree branch or a stick or whatever, and add a meaning to that, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know? So this is where maybe a little bit of theory comes in, or kind of a marketing principles come in, right?
Yeah.
But the reality is that there are so many ways, unlimited basically ways to sell the same thing.
Yeah. And I would say it's always a little different, right? Because there's a lot of content messaging coaches, copywriting coaches, but I'm sure we all teach a very different way. And we're all going to teach certain people better.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And so how do you think it helps people sort of flow better when they work with people, clients that are right for them?
Yeah, I think that's really important. I worked with a very big, very masculine sales coach in the past, and I knew coming in that I did not vibe with his energy. But I was like, okay, he knows what he's doing. Like, obviously, I can
Mhm.
learn something. And I did learn principles and like strategies, but it was very hard for me to absorb them because I didn't vibe with the way he did them. And it felt like going against like my own grain. It didn't feel like me. I couldn't follow the strategies because I hated them. So I think when we work with someone that we're like, oh my God, I love her vibe, like it's easy. It feels easy to follow her because she's already similar to me or he's already similar to me.
Mm.
That's why I think it's easier to absorb because you're not going against the grain of who you already are. If you're very introverted and you're trying to follow a coach that's extremely extroverted and does lives every other day and they want you to do that, that may be hard for you to do because that's just not your vibe. So I think it's just easier to try to get a coach that vibes with you already so you're not climbing
Yeah,
uphill against yourself.
yeah, and actually quite recently I had a coach, a personal coach, right, for just a couple of months, and there was so much misalignment that I could not exactly pinpoint but I just felt, and I was not excited about doing things, whatever he was telling me to do. And I felt that he maybe was thinking that I was not coachable or something like that. But I've had many coaches over time, and so it took a while for me to understand what was going on,
Hmm.
and it was a complete energy misalignment and complete,
Yeah.
very different ways of doing things. And at that stage, I already needed much more feminine energy, which I'm not saying that men cannot have. They some of them do as well, right?
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and yeah, it just didn't work. So it's so important to have aligned clients, and I love that you're using this in your marketing, because well, I'm hoping that more and more people are gonna see these kind of things, and but the question is now as well, how can people start trusting their intuition?
I think I think you just have to start, right? Kind of like getting into a cold pool. You just have to start going for it. You can try it with something small, right? Like write one piece of content from your alignment, your what you actually want to say a week and see how it goes. If you're already in a place where you're feeling frustrated with your business, I guarantee in a few weeks, in a couple of weeks, you're already going to see a giant shift. And people are going to be like, holy shit, where did she come from? Like, I did not realize she was this person. If you're posting from soulless templates that don't feel like you, and then you shift into what you really want to say, it's going to be a massive difference very quickly.
How do you have any particular techniques, routine, or any methods like so-called mindset methods? I have to say I'm not a big fan of the word mindset anymore.
Yeah.
Because I guess I think what we are talking about is beyond that. It's deeper
Yeah.
than this mainstream mindset stuff. But do you use anything? Is there any work that you do on yourself to enter that zone, to stay in that zone, to evolve it?
Yeah. There's a lot of work. I make sure every day to connect with myself. I believe in a higher self that has already achieved all of the beautiful things that you want to achieve in your life and more that you haven't even thought of. She's
Mhm.
there, right? She's in the back of your mind looking at you like, oh, this little toddler Polly is not going in the right direction again. And she's the one that smacks you over the head when you're going the wrong way. And it feels like a really annoying obstacle, but it's actually her steering you. So I try to connect with her every day in situations where I feel very unsure or I'm just not sure the right way. I think, what would she do if I was already that person? Which direction would I go? And you just trust it. And then you just go. Um, I don't really believe in a wrong path or a wrong answer. I think everything in one way will help you and in another way will limit you. So there's not really a wrong choice. And for me, it's meditation. It's just meditation to connect with her at every step. Anytime I'm unsure, just really make sure that I feel connected.
So as a mom with a small daughter, how do you manage to find time for that? Because I have to be honest, I struggle a little bit. And especially now, school is finishing tomorrow, and my daughter is gonna be home like full time now. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm already sort of stressing a little bit about it. My mornings are not gonna be
Mhm.
the same, and things like that. How about you? You're on mute now, Holly.
Oh, so it was definitely really hard, especially when she was smaller. Um, Now I basically do little chunks. So I have, thank goodness, a lot of support from my husband and from my mother-in-law and from my mom.
Mhm.
Um, and my meditations are not like 3 hours long, right? They're like maybe 10 minutes here and there. You don't have to meditate for hours and hours on end to stay connected. It's just a practice that if you continuously do little things, almost like when you start working out, you don't have to work out for 4 hours every day, 5 times a week. If you do even 20 minutes of a workout per day, you'll
Yeah.
start seeing little changes. And then to really make sure you're congratulating yourself for every little
Mm.
change, every little win, every time you trusted and stepped in her direction and in your higher self's direction. And that'll keep you on that path and keep that momentum ball rolling. And that's really the way I started.
And how do you think is important to have your personal space? Like, I have to say I was neglecting myself for a long time, and I sort of convinced myself I didn't have time for myself.
Mhm.
But then I ended up in this really, really, really dark place, and I was punished for not looking after myself, and my biggest ahas, when I think about it, my biggest ahas and breakthroughs and downloads happened when I was on my own.
Mhm.
So, and I'm thinking, what if I was not? What if I wasn't on my own? What if I wasn't sitting on the couch completely with myself, with no one around, where when I do not have to suppress my feelings or whatever is happening, and because let's say I'm in a very emotional situation and getting some emotional download, and my daughter is around, and of course I will be suppressing my stuff that is coming out, and of course then this big download is not going to happen, right? So
Mhm.
how do you think is it so important to do everything you can to create that space for yourself?
I think it definitely is. And even as a mom with like very little kids, you can at least get a shower, right? Hopefully, you can find 10 minutes and get a shower and then like do it there. You can just find little pockets of time. And then if you have more time or if you have a spouse, tell them to watch the kids too. And then go and try to get more and more time because I think when we're around anyone at all, even our spouse was normally the person we're closest to or significant other, you still sort of suppress, right? You have some kind of, as human beings, some kind of small mask around any other person.
Mm,
So, like you said, the best way to let that go is to make time, even just a little bit, to be by yourself and connect with that higher self. Let any emotion out because feelings just want to be felt. They're not wrong or right. We need to feel them.
mm,
And
mm,
that's it. Just really work on that. And that alone, those two practices, connecting with my higher self and making little pockets of time to be by myself, changed everything for me. I was in a really, really dark place too
mm.
before I was doing that. When I was just hustling and trying to do all of the things, I was not doing well at all.
And so I was gonna ask something different, but now that you mentioned that dark place, if you don't mind, I'd like to sort of talk a little bit more about that and why you think you were in the dark place, what it was that dark place, how did you feel, what was happening?
Yeah. So it was shortly after I went through the program with the misaligned coach. And this
Mm,
is why I believe so strongly in alignment as well. I You start feeling like maybe something's wrong with you because I
yeah.
would see other people being able to execute those really harsh strategies and really hard closes. And I couldn't. I was like, what is wrong with me? Maybe
Wow.
I'm not cut out for this. And the more I went into that, what is wrong with me place, the more I would try really hard to do more things and do more things.
Mm,
And I wouldn't spend time with my husband. I didn't even come down for dinner sometimes because I felt like I needed to do more things. And I would go to bed super late. I was pregnant, super pregnant at the time. And the more I pushed myself, the more misaligned things got, and the more tired I was, and the less energy I had. And it just spiraled into this snowball of being extremely unhappy, not just with my business, but with myself and my life, because it's also connected for us as coaches.
wow, I'm getting chills as you speak because I can recognize myself in that story, and I believe so many people can recognize it. I've been meeting people like that, all the time now. They're everywhere. They're everywhere. And I think the worst thing about that kind of situation, when when you mention the snowballing effect, like you don't even notice how it's happening
Mm-mm.
for a while,
No, I
right?
didn't. And then like 3 months down the line, I was in a really deep depression.
As a
Couldn't climb my
pregnant
way.
woman.
Yes, I couldn't climb my way out of it. And then I felt like this awful timeline. I was like, okay, I have like 3 months before she's born, and then I have to take a break. And then how am I going to do all these things? And I was having a very hard time even enjoying one of the most amazing times of my life that we went through IVF and a lot of infertility treatments. So it was even more something that I wanted for a really long time. And I got so stuck in the grind that I wasn't enjoying my life at all.
Wow, even though probably you were causing harm to your health, potentially, baby.
Hmm.
How unfair is that? That we don't allow ourselves to just stop. Like, did you have that feeling that if you stopped, you're gonna lose the momentum? Where
Yeah,
are we rushing
exactly.
anyway? Where are we rushing? Do you know where we are rushing?
And I was going to bring up that point. So, this crazy timeline that I had in my head was completely self created, arbitrary.
I lost your sound.
Can you hear
Oh,
me?
it's you're back. You're back.
Okay. Yeah. So, these timelines, a lot that we put so much pressure on ourselves, they don't actually exist. Right. This timeline of, oh my God, I need to hit however much money I wanted to hit before my daughter is born was completely conflicted. It did not actually exist, only in my head. And it's what was driving me to this like crazy madness. And like you said, it's terrible that sometimes, especially as women, I think we don't allow ourselves this time to just relax and not put so much pressure on ourselves. And I really felt like I was doing it for my child because I wanted to retire my husband so he could spend more time with her. And I wanted her to have a family of two parents that were home all the time.
Was it
To
affecting other
push
people
myself
around
forward.
you as well?
It was affecting my marriage. Yeah. My marriage very badly. I wasn't scared because I don't have time. I don't have time to answer the phone. I don't have time to hang out with anyone. I need to make this work.
And what did you wonder at all? Like, was it possible that you were anxious about actually your baby coming into your world and you not being able to dedicate all of you to your business?
Yes. So, yes and no. I was really worried about, I knew I had to take some kind of time off after the birth. Um, but I also had never had a baby. So I was like, okay, probably like a couple weeks and it'll be fine. And it doesn't work like that, right? Human babies don't work like that.
No, no. I was giving myself like 6 months. So it
Oh,
was,
good.
but even 6 months, you know that means nothing. Like, but 2 weeks,
Oh.
okay. And see how what our society actually does, like the 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 duration of the maternity leave.
Hmm.
It's so short, and we get this impression, oh, you know what, after that, like the baby is actually self-sufficient,
Yeah.
independent, and
And in the US, I think it's much shorter than in Europe. It's a normal maternity leave is 2 weeks, and
I
then you
know.
have to use your own paid time.
I know, right? So at the time I was in Ireland, so the normal one is 6 months, and then you can add and paid 4 months. But here in Lithuania, where I'm now,
Hmm.
it's 2 years, and then you
Oh,
can take another year unpaid.
yeah, that makes sense.
That
That
makes sense.
makes more sense.
Even then, like I remember, When they say what do they say, the horrible trees, the awful force, or something like that. I think it
Yeah,
got,
yeah, the terrible
I,
twos. Yeah.
or the terrible twos, and that I think it got like, I felt that it's much easier suddenly when my daughter turned 4. And then
Mhm.
a month later, I'm like, oh, actually, maybe it feels easier now. But
Yeah.
and so also what I wanted to sort of say, when we talked about the dark place, and what actually used to help me sometimes to look at my situation from the outside is the idea of what kind of mother I want to be to my daughter and what kind of example I want to show her. And actually, the whole awakening, so to speak, happened because of the thought of how I wouldn't want this kind of thing, this kind of grind and feeling inferior and all those kind of things, for my daughter. Because I do want her to, I don't know whether to become an entrepreneur, but at least to be aware of unlimited possibilities, unlimited potential, and the possibility to do whatever she likes and still make a living, and those kind of things. However, when I thought about, oh my God, is my daughter gonna grind like this? Is my daughter gonna treat herself like I am treating me? Treat herself like I'm like, God, no. And that's where it all started. So I think, yeah, I mean, we need to find that space for ourselves, thinking about our children, you know,
Hmm.
because otherwise we are like, oh my, always
Like
there,
I was.
always running, always not having time, you
Yeah.
know. Yeah.
Yeah. And that was part of my shift too. I knew that I was doing it for my daughter, but then I thought, we're all someone's daughter or someone's son.
Mm.
Um, how would I feel if my daughter was 29 or 30 and she was treating herself this way? That would make me so sad.
Yeah, and it's so counterintuitive, right? When we stop grinding and we relax, and then the results are coming. It's
It's crazy.
right. How can you explain that for somebody who's listening, and they think that they need to take action, they need to have massive to-do lists, and they need to take all the to-dos off, every day. What could you tell them about this?
I would tell them that I understand. I am super high achieving. I have been that way since I was a child. My whole family is that way. Um, I would probably tell them to just try it because if you're like I was and you're super frustrated and it's not working anyway and you're driving yourself to madness, why not try it? Right? Try connecting with yourself. Try breathing, try resting. Because if it feels like you're walking uphill all the time, you need to rest. That's your body and your brain telling you, slow the hell down. Like, this is not the way, this is not the right way. That little toddler is going the wrong way again.
Yeah.
And slow down and just try it. Try it for like 2 weeks.
Yeah, that's a very, very good point. Very valuable point. It's not like you have to quit or you have to just try it. Just try it and see what happens, and you can get onto that grind train again.
Hmm.
If the other way is not working for you. That's a very, very good point to remember. And I think purely in marketing and I guess coaching, but mostly in the context of strategies and failing forward, I tell everyone, everything is a test, and
Hmm.
at the time it really, really helped me as well, just thinking everything is a test. And this one too, like, stepping into your intuition and to your power and just trying it.
Hmm.
It's a test. If it doesn't work out, you can go back to your old ways. you
Yeah.
know. So one final question, because I'm looking at the time now and don't want to keep you much longer. Um, uh, so I'm also exploring leverage in business and marketing and sales. I'm absolutely fascinated, by this topic, and I keep looking for more powerful ways to do things. And when you look at how people using the same strategies, everyone is getting different results or not getting. Most people are not getting results, you know, that it's in itself is very evident about how limited strategies are. And so now exploring this other piece where I say that your biggest leverage is within you. And if that is flat, that is turned off, nothing else is going to work powerfully. Yeah. What is there anything you can add to this, or maybe another angle?
Yeah. When I was at my worst point in business, I had like 4 years behind me of marketing. I knew how to market.
You are
But
breaking up quite a bit, Pauly.
can you, is it clear now?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay. Um, so yeah, when I had my with no client, I had about 4 years of marketing behind me, of making thousands of dollars for other coaches. So I knew the strategies. And I still went 6 months without any new client because the me piece was missing. I wasn't putting any of myself out there. I was only doing what I thought I was supposed to do, working with templates. Um, so yeah, I think 100%, maybe 20% of the strategy, right? You should know the strategy. There is a way to make it work. There's kind of a right-ish way, but without you, you're not going anywhere. Without rested you, without connected to your higher self you, without energy you, it's pointless. You're going uphill and really going nowhere because I did it.
And it's good that you mentioned the 20%. And I remember I used to think at the start of my journey, the 80-20 rule. And I used to
Mm-hmm.
think, what is the 80? What is the 20? I agreed with that. It made sense, but I couldn't define what the 80 and the 20 were,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then, of course, yeah, the pipeline, getting clients, doing, things that bring money. But now we are basically saying that the 80% is work on you, work
Yeah.
on, diving into yourself
Mm-hmm.
really and understanding the essence of you and stepping into your power. That is the 80%, which is crazy, but it's also beautiful, right?
Yeah. I think most of us have that flip to begin with, but that is 100% true.
Wow. Okay. So could be talking for hours with you. Love this topic, and I'm sure like I'll probably have you on my podcast again at some point. And thank you so very much for being here with me, chatting about this stuff. Where could people find you?
Yeah. So I'm primarily on Facebook. I think I'm the only Pauly Barker. So just look for Pauly Barker and you will find me.
Yeah, I'll be so that's your Facebook profile. Okay, I'll be adding then the link
Yeah.
in the show notes. And thanks again. I love this topic. Thanks again for being here with me. And yeah,
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. This was a really great talk.
uh, my pleasure. And yeah, I'll meet you again on my podcast, I believe.
I hope so. Yeah. It sounds great.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.